Call to order the January 13th meeting of the Conestoga Valley Board of School Directors. I'd like to welcome everyone that's here this evening as well as those who join us online. Before we start, we're all aware of the gigantic fires on the West Coast. Among the victims are thousands of children of all ages experiencing early onset trauma and multiple trauma, whose impact is immeasurable without counselors or services beyond their immediate families that are already overburdened. Let us take a moment to reflect on what we can do to help and on how fortunate we are to be safe where we are. Please join me to pledge the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Martin, may we have attendance, please?
We have 8 school directors present tonight. Mrs. Kafka is absent. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. This is our work session, the first of 2 meetings per month in which we receive most of the informational presentations, as well as discuss and deliberate future decisions. There may also be some action voting items required on timely issues or to meet time-restrained guidelines. Being the first meeting of the year, I'd like to repeat our disclaimer that our meetings observe the requirements of the school code, legislative directives, the original Act 84 Sunshine Law, all subsequent amendments, judicial rulings, applicable regulations, and our district policies to the best of our understanding and ability. The agenda, as always, is posted online along with all related documents. Are there any changes, additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
Yes, we have one. The capital project presentation was uploaded, a new version was uploaded today that included a corrected cost.
Any others? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The agenda is approved. Dr. Hartman, superintendent's comments.
Good evening. I have no superintendent's report to approve this evening, but just a couple comments. It's hard to believe we're actually almost at the halfway point for the school year. So we're wrapping up the first semester here next week. High school's in the middle of Keystone exams right now, so it's a busy time. Did want to just remind the public and the community, due to the snow day that we had this past week, that February 14th will now be a school day. So unfortunately, I hope that doesn't ruin anybody's Valentine's Day plans, but we will be in session on February 14th. It was originally scheduled to be a teacher in-service day, and the day before that was supposed to be an early dismissal day based on our calendar and the way it was adopted. The 13th will now be a full day of school, and the 14th, which originally was going to be off, students will be in session, but that day will now be the early dismissal day. So we have already started to communicate that out publicly, but we'll continue to do that between now and then to give multiple reminders. And I just wanted to mention one last thing, a little bit of a congratulations, but also just a heads up for the board. As you're aware, our middle school for the past year or so has been designated as a TSI school, which is Targeted School Improvement, which is really the lowest level of the state's school improvement ratings. It's considered a warning system, but they were designated as TSI for specifically for one population of students, our L population and Hispanic population. Pleased to announce that we actually recently learned that they will no longer be on TSI. They have met their goals in about as quick as a period as you can. So I know they've come and they've presented to the board multiple times. Rachel shared her plan for the middle school and the goals and some of the initiatives she has there. And sometimes that might, when we talk about all that data that we're analyzing and looking at, it's easy for that to go over your head. But to put in summary, those efforts have paid off. And going into next year, the middle school will no longer be on TSI. So we were informed of that. At the same time, also informed that unfortunately the high school will be considered TSI next year for a different population, for a different subset for our special ed population, specifically around the areas of attendance rate and some of their student performance data. So very not uncommon for your special ed population to get targeted. And what they're looking at really is discrepancy between how that subset of your population performs compared to your general population, and also looking at, where you compare across the state. But it's, like I said, the lowest level of designation. It's an early warning system, and similar to what we did at the middle school, very confident that we will put a successful plan together with measurable goals, and we will be able to address those needs. So I don't always view it as a negative when you get that TSI designation. It's an opportunity to pull your resources and really take a close look at areas for growth and where you can work. So just wanted to give the board a heads up on that before the state makes that information public. But it will, you'll be hearing a lot more information from us in the coming weeks and months as we start to get a team together and start to look at, really dive into the data and take a look at what areas we need to target. So just good news for the middle school, but a little bit of work to do for the high school. But I know Dr. Fox and his team are actually already on top of it. There's already been some meetings going on and some starting to kind of form the team of how we're gonna tackle it. So that concludes my report.
Can
Yeah.
I, just to confirm, this is effective 2025-26
Correct.
school year. Thank you.
And we hope you'll convey the board's congratulations to the middle school for a job well done. That's always good news. Are there any board comments on district activities? If not, we'll start with our presentations. Mr. Kramer.
Dylan, nice to see everybody again. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, guys. Sure. Sit on this side since maybe it'll project a little bit more if I don't have my back to the audience, if that's okay. So it's nice to see everybody again. We'd like to do this update kind of this time of year every year where we come back and kind of update everyone on the state of the union as it relates to your debt profile. This year, I think we're now getting closer to the need for some additional funds to finish Fritz and other projects down the road. So we wanted to talk about that a little bit this evening as well. And then I'm going to finish up with some ideas we have about finding some additional grant money for not only the Fritz project, but possibly the admin building project as well. So with that, we always start on page 2 with a couple of different interest rate charts, just to refresh everybody's memory if you've not been following the financial markets. Over the last 6 or 8 months, the Federal Reserve has been lowering short-term interest rates. Going back to last summer, the yield curve was what we call inverted, where short-term interest rates were actually higher than long-term interest rates. And so what has started to happen, if you look at the red line on that page, that's the current shape of the yield curve, and you can still see that relative to the normal blue kind of yield curve, that's the historical shape of the yield curve, where a 1-year yield is generally lower than a 30-year yield. You can still see that short-term 1 to 3 and 4-year yields are still higher than what they normally would be. If you've been paying attention the last probably 45 days or so, we've gotten some better than expected jobs numbers. With respect to employment, we've gotten some better numbers on the economy. New administration's about to take office. And so all those things have caused interest rates on the long end to go up. Where you'll see on the next page, interest rates, what really matter to you on the borrowing side of the house in years 10 to 30, or if you were going to borrow money for a home mortgage, those rates have actually moved significantly higher over the last 60 days. 90 days. Where the 10-year treasury 6 months ago was 3.75%. When I left the office today, it was 4.75%. So we've moved about a full percent higher, even though everything you're hearing on the news is the Federal Reserve has been lowering short-term overnight lending rates. So two different markets, the short-term overnight lending rate that the Federal Reserve kind of manages and the long-term borrowing side of the house that's really dictated. Those rates are driven by future expectations for inflation. And so there's a lot of uncertainty as to what the next 12, 18, 24 months holds with respect to inflation. And so the market's kind of wigged out a little bit and has moved higher as a result. The other thing I would point out, just to refresh everybody's memory, the $130 million or so that we've already borrowed for the projects around the campus we're largely done at the bottom of the market. So your average yield on your existing borrowings is somewhere between 3 and 3.5%. So at the bottom, where you see the January 20th spot on that historical yield chart page, shows that your timing was, I don't know if it was lucky or good, but you timed it properly for your projects. And that really has resulted in a minimal impact to the budget.
From what I understand, the Fed's not going to move these interest rates right now.
So as of today, Fed funds futures have maybe one interest rate cut at the end of 2025.
Maybe.
6 weeks ago, there was an expectation for 3 or 4 rate cuts for 2025. They're
Not
gone.
going to happen.
So unlikely that the short-term market's going to move. Now, that again, the Treasury market has a really good way of getting ahead of future moves by the Federal Reserve. So as soon as they see signs of slowing, we get some bad economic numbers, we get some bad jobs numbers, that will change. As quickly as it changed to the upside, it could change to the downside. A lot of things influence those markets on a daily basis. What we're going to talk about in terms of timing for your next borrowing isn't until this summer, so we have some time to kind of get our head around the borrowing. So that said, again, another refresh. The next page is a summary of your existing debt profile. This is what we call gross debt service, and what that means is it's simply the debt service that's in your budget before we factor in any reimbursement that you receive from the Department of Education. So I was actually talking to Adele before the meeting. For those of you who were around, when we first started these projects, we borrowed $10 million in 2018. You've already paid off that first $10 million borrowing for this project. So what's left of the borrowings is 2019. We borrowed, if you want to actually go to the next page, there'll be some footnotes. That was new money. That was roughly $38 million that we borrowed in 2019. That's column 10. And then we borrowed again in 2021 and 2022. So the sum of those columns, column 16, is what's in your budget annually for debt service, about $7.3 million annually. It runs all the way out through the year 2051 if you weren't to add any additional debt. You can see each of those component parts looks a little wonky when you look at it on its own, but in Pennsylvania we have to have level or declining debt and we look at all of it combined. So that far right-hand column 16, has to be level or declining. At the bottom of the page, we did have a nice surprise. Again, for those of you who were around in 2016 and 2017 when we first started the conversations with Murata, Maine, and at the time, the PlanCon program was about to go away. There was a moratorium. You got in ahead of the deadline, filed the necessary PlanCon documents, and here we are. We actually got a surprise and actually are getting a few PlanCon dollars from Harrisburg, even though there's no expectation going forward that there'll be any dollars for PlanCon or projects going forward. They've kind of shifted their focus to the school facilities funding, where you all kind of went through that process last year where there was a bucket of money. All 500 school districts basically applied for it and no one got any real money out of that bucket. People got 500,000 here, 700,000 there. So nothing really to speak of, unfortunately. The other footnote there, real quick, I mentioned the yields on those various issues. The yield going back to 2019 was 2.79%, 2%, 2.5%, 3.7, 3.7, 4.1. So boil all that down and you've borrowed, again, $130-ish million, largely at the bottom of the market, an all-in yield of about 3.5%. Historically speaking, that's pretty darn good. So, it's been a lot of work over the last 6 or 7 years. You're kind of coming to the end of what was projected for those projects in that you're now working on Leola. Fritz is kind of next on the docket, admin building potentially after that. And based on what we learned from Adele and her office, at the end of Leola, you'll have roughly $8-ish million left in that bucket of unspent bond proceeds. I think the expectation is that Fritz is going to be somewhere in the $21 to $23, $24 million range. And so given those numbers, there's likely a need at the moment for roughly $15 million to finish Fritz. Maybe it gives you some additional seed money for the next project after Fritz. So what we've shown you, and again, this is very similar to what we shared with you last time I was here, is a millage study for a $15 million borrowing sometime this summer. So column 2 is your existing debt profile that we kind of just summarized. Column 3 is in the orangish column is the debt service on a new $15 million borrowing. Far right-hand column is really what you're most interested in is what is that need in the budget for additional dollars, and it's about $0.1 million over 4 years. So really, in column 7, you'll need to come up with about $100,000 a year for the next 4 years in the budget to fund that $15 million. That doesn't take into account any interest earnings. I know that the monies that are sitting in that project fund are currently still enjoying 4.5% reinvestment rates, and you're able to keep those additional dollars, which is great. The other nice thing about getting the money a little bit early this summer, even though you're probably not going to put a shovel on the ground for Fritz until next summer, is that by borrowing $15 million or less in a calendar year, the IRS says you are considered a small issuer. And when you're a small issuer, any interest earnings that you earn in that project fund, you get to keep. So you can borrow it, let's just say it's 3.5 or 3.75%, and reinvest it at 4.25, 4.5%, and you get to keep all that additional interest earnings. So it's going to sit there for roughly a year, just spinning off additional interest earnings for you to use towards projects. It's not kind of factored into the math here. So this is kind of what it looks like. The numbers you see here are at today's interest rates plus 0.5% contingency. So it's current rates plus 0.5%. So we've been conservative in our estimates for what it's going to look like. Hopefully you catch a break and rates move in your favor between now and sometime this summer when we look to borrow that money. So that's kind of the map as we look in the rearview mirror as to what you've already done. The page on the screen now is kind of what we're looking to do this summer. The only other piece that I would like to bring up that I know we're going to talk about next week with the administration, the school facilities grant program, as I mentioned, was a bucket of money, a very small bucket for 500 school districts in the Commonwealth, so not a lot of folks got a lot of dollars. There is a firm out there, largely a lobbying firm, a consulting firm, that has had a great deal of success in securing grant monies for schools, not just through school facilities, but through what's called RACP or the RCAP program, but also what I will call project-specific projects. Fritz has a little bit of asbestos. There's a bucket in Harrisburg for asbestos projects, environmental projects. There's a governor's budget, walking around money, if you will, for projects where there's what I'll call a community-based project where I think some of the conversation about the admin building is a relationship with Penn Medicine, for maybe the good of Penn Medicine, maybe the good of CV, the community at large. Those are the kind of projects that if there is a local need to make that project happen, as I understand it, those are the kind of project dollars that are out there in these buckets in Harrisburg that they are very good at securing on your behalf. And so what we've learned over the last 2 years, and I'm happy to answer any questions, is that they will work with the administration and your architect in finding out all the various buckets that you would qualify for. I think there's an asbestos bucket, environmental bucket for Fritz that you would qualify for some free dollars for. There's maybe this Penn Medicine project bucket. Kutztown's asking for $1.5 million out of that bucket. It's probably a different bucket. In addition to what I will call the normal RCAP bucket, which is generally not held out there for schools. RCAP has generally been economic development. Rock Lidditz gets RCAP funding as an example. That's the kind of, but there is a new, what I'll call backdoor way for schools to get their hands on that grant money. Very political process that they walk you through in Harrisburg. They are an advocate for you so that Adele is not pulling her hair out dealing with the minutiae of an RCAP program and grant program. So again, I'm not here selling this other firm. I'm here telling you that they've had a great deal of success for other of our school clients, meaningful dollars. And what I mean by meaningful dollars, like Homing CTC asked for $5 million, they got $5 million. That's a CTC project with 7 member schools. So it was a good story, if you will, for why they should get those dollars. Antietam School District had some environmental issues. They had a flood. They got $7.5 million. They asked for 7.5, got 7.5. West Branch School District is probably a project similar to yours in that it's got a lot of moving parts: elementary, middle, HVAC, asbestos, all kind of stuff, safety issues. And the GSL guys have told them they think they can secure somewhere between $7 and $10 million out of the various buckets. Last thing I'll say about that, because again, we're going to have lunch next week and talk more about it and get into the weeds with the administration, is they work on a success basis. And so you engage them and you don't pay them unless they win. And so they're incentivized to get as many dollars for you because they get paid on the amount of dollars they get. This has been out there for probably 2 or 3 years. What we've now seen is now the first 2 budget cycles where they can show us and point to success stories that I kind of just mentioned. So all of our clients are saying, okay, that sounds great, but if we're going to engage you, show me what it's going to mean to me. So I think there's a potential for meaningful dollars if you're trying to do the admin project, if there's a story project there, if there's asbestos, if there's other safety projects. There's a number of different buckets that you might qualify for. So that's what we're going to talk about next. Free money's the best money we can get. I can't do better. 3% money is good money, but free's better. So that's the scoop. You'll start to hear and see more from us as we get closer to this summer in terms of just the plain vanilla borrowing side of the house. But I suspect that if you guys want to move forward with the GSL folks, start kind of having dialogue about what that means. The timing for those kinds of projects is it's long. So they would tell you that if you engage them now, you're not going to see any dollars for 24, 36 months, maybe even 48 months. It's a reimbursement project where you apply, you're awarded, and then you get reimbursed after you've spent the dollars. So that's an important piece of the puzzle. Again, you can manage that cash flow. It's not an issue. So there is, when I say there's various buckets and various opportunities, that would play out largely over the next 2 or 3 Harrisburg budget cycles. So you get in line, they would apply for you. First round, you may not get anything. The second year, you might get something. The third year, you might get something more. So I think that lines up with your timing for Fritz kind of at the forefront, admin building after that, and then maybe something after that, where you could work with Morada, Maine, the administration saying, okay, let's identify what our projects are, what our needs are, and have them go figure it out for us. So that's it. The other piece that's out there as enough is solar has been a hot topic in our world and our schools. Solar for Schools came out. There is money out there for solar. We've all of a sudden become solar experts. I never thought I would learn as much as I did about solar and how it works and But we've actually been using it as a tool for our schools to help pay for projects. The solar revenue, by not just using the revenue from the solar panels for your own use, but actually building it big enough that you can sell it back to the grid and make some money at it, has been a hot topic for schools and for other municipalities. So that's out there as well. I know you're kind of thinking about that, kicking it around, and we can help you, whether it's solar on the roof, solar on canopies over parking lots, whether it's on the retention basin over at the new middle school. There's a lot of places you can put it. So that's it. I'll stop talking. Any questions?
I like numbers.
Yeah.
So I have a few questions.
Okay.
Page 4, column 5.
Yep.
2026, instead of going down, it goes up almost $2 million, and then the next year down.
Yep.
Why?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, if you look at, like column 2 is the series of 2019, it's fairly level at $2.8 million.
Mm-hmm.
Column 3, column 4, those are actually refinancings of debt that goes back, I think, to the 90s. So that's just what was left of those prior issues.
Right.
Column 5, to your point, is another issue that kind of wrapped around existing debt. Column 6, column 7. So if you look at column 7 as a different example, if you look down at the bottom of column 7, the debt service is $1.8 million,
Right.
and then jumps up to $7.6 million out there in
Yep.
2045.
I have that marked.
Yep. So column 8, as I mentioned, in Pennsylvania, under the Local Government Unit Debt Act, you have to have level or declining debt when you look at all the pieces of your debt combined. And so each one may look wonky in and of itself, but what's in your budget is a level number at $7,616,000 roughly, all the way out to 2051. So yes, column 5 looks a little wonky because it jumps from $1.3 million to 3 and drops down to 2.5 million. But that's because there's other pieces of your debt. Like if you look at column 2, there's only $1.2 million there.
Right.
$1 million in column 4. When you add across the row, it all adds up to the 7.6 million.
Okay.
And that's the target is to have level debt in column 8.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we'd be in a lot of trouble if you had a big jump from $1 million to $3 million in your debt service. That'd be a problem.
Right. So, and that's the same, so with column 10, 13 like that, is to make that column 16 level.
Yep, yeah, so, and I don't think I mentioned it this go around, but page 4 is gross debt service. That's before you factor in any reimbursement.
Okay.
Page 5, if you look at, so on a gross basis, you have $7.6 million a year in your budget. On a net basis, you have about $7.33 million in your budget. So you receive a little bit of reimbursement from Harrisburg. And at the bottom of the page, you can see what are called the reimbursable fractions. You get 15 cents on the dollar-ish, small. But we factor all that in to get to again, a level 7.3 million out there in column 16.
Well, I noticed that in 2045, column 16 went up 200,000.
Yep. So part of what we've learned since we started borrowing in 2019 and 2021 is that we got an unexpected amount of reimbursement from the state. And so we had sized your debt service to 7.5 million and then realized we were going to get $300,000 of reimbursement from the Department of Education. Now, what's good about that is, A, you're getting dollars from Harrisburg in terms of reimbursement, but if you go to page 6, these are very good questions, by the way. If you look at the orange column, you can see that it runs at about $850,000 a year,
Right.
and we're going to fill in that 2.3 million, that windfall, with new debt. So that actually helps us pay debt faster and pay less interest. That's why the millage impact is as low as it is for that next 15 million. Because, again, if you look down over column 2, the before picture is 7.3, it gets out there to your 2045 where it goes to 7.5, but the after in column 5 is that now we've levelized it at 8.1 million. So we've kind of taken that blip out that you saw from the reimbursement you're receiving. And actually that's working to your advantage. You're getting reimbursement dollars from Harrisburg, but you're able to now with this next borrowing to accelerate principal to the front end of the schedule, which helps save you in interest.
And in 2053, we will be paid.
That's correct. Yep, if you do nothing,
If we do nothing.
if you do nothing, you'll be out of debt in 2053. I don't think there's anyone around this table that's gonna be still sitting here, but
Our grandchildren?
yes, so not to beat that dead horse, but when we started this big building project, you had 3 years left to run on your existing debt, and you were gonna be out of debt. And so that really had set you up perfectly to borrow the 135 million that you borrowed for all these projects and do it with little or no impact from a debt service perspective to the budget. So now, looking in the rearview mirror, having borrowed all that money, you're still in a good place relative to your peers, so that if you do have other projects, you'll be able to either wrap around this debt in the next 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it is, or issue level debt, just like you're kind of doing here. If you look at column 3, if you did nothing before this 15 million, you're gonna be out of debt in 2051. Now we're only extending your debt by 2 years to borrow the additional 15 that you need. So you'll have that flexibility down the road, should you need it to borrow for other projects, whatever they may be.
And the adjusted index 4%, that is what you expect the interest to be this year.
No, that's the Act 1 index. We expect the adjusted Act 1 index to be 4%. So
Act 1 index.
you've been enjoying some really good indexes out of Harrisburg in terms of their funding. That ship has sailed, I think. I think the next couple of years, it's not gonna be as advantageous. So all that's meant to show you is your ability to, when you build your budget every year, you're living within the index, trying to keep the lights on for all the other stuff you need to do under the Act 1 index, right? In terms of your millage impact. So that's just kind of a footnote to say that's what the index is expected to be for the 25-26 budget year.
Thank you.
I don't always agree with the feeling that when we extend debt and keep it level by extending it, that we don't impact budget, because every dollar we spend on debt is money we don't spend on program. So it does impact budget by simply keeping it there.
Yep, I agree.
Questions, concerns, predictions?
If anybody has that crystal ball, let me know.
Okay. Thank
When our
you.
borrowing rate stays AAA and everything, we're still sitting where we need to be, right?
Yeah, so you're double A.
Is that what it was?
Yep, double A.
Added another A in there, just,
There's-
we're trying to be extra positive. Let's make it quadruple A, we have a quadruple A borrowing rate.
It doesn't exist, but we'll create a separate category for
Just for
CD.
Conestoga.
Exactly. Again, the other thing that we wanted to make sure going down this path was that you had a good rating going into it, and then you came out on the other side with a good rating, and you've done that. Your fund balances are healthy, you've done all the other stuff that you want to do from a curriculum perspective, got a lot of great projects going on, and now you're gonna come out on the other side having not jeopardized that good rating, which parlays into the best borrowing rate you can get. That really is important. It's really the golden goose, is keeping that good rating.
Very cool.
All right, well, we'll be in touch with the administration.
Okay,
All things keep moving, we'll probably be back here in June-ish to start working on rating and parameters resolutions for the next project, but it's it's cool to be in the new space, to see the fruits of the labors. That it's been a long couple of years. I know you guys have really seen and done a lot of good hard work, and it's nice to drive around the campus and see the fruits of your labors for sure. A lot of good work.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks. Thanks, Scott.
Take care, guys. Chairs are nice too.
What do you think of the color of it?
Mr. Johnson,
Don't go there, Dan, don't go there.
changes in that, maintenance budget?
Yes, looking at the capital projects for the upcoming year, I apologize for thank you to Marilyn for uploading it. I found a mathematical error in the one item. It was, something wasn't looking right to me and I missed a zero in the mix. So instead of 48,000 for the paved playground area, it's actually, and I screwed up too, didn't I? No, I'm sorry, it was corrected to 48. I just, I don't know. I was overthinking it possibly, so we'll leave it at that. So, this is the first blush at presenting it to everybody here. I have a meeting with the board, with the administration in, next month to review all of these items. I have prioritized everything. If you look at the last page down there, there's a priority one, which is, things related to safety, equipment failure, maintaining, like roofs and those type of things. A priority two, outdated items, like, a van that's from 1999 that's got 180,000 miles on it, that type of thing. So, a lawnmower that's also aged out at this point, and it's not worth putting more money into it. Unfortunately, the cost to replace these items is not getting any cheaper as we move forward. So, the priority three, items related to maintenance but more cosmetic in nature. And then priority four, items that could be postponed until another year. Some items came as a building request from each building as we sat down with them. And then the items that aren't highlighted, I listed under other. These are items that specifically a lot of the HVAC related items were items that we had as ESSER projects, but then we reallocated some of those ESSER funds to pay for Myco's contractor, mechanical contract here at the Smoketown project and also the Leola project. So that's why that number is where it is, and those are not highlighted. So I did not prioritize those. We've been going through a design aspect of that, having the engineer look at it, have the manufacturer look at it. We've actually pre-purchased a lot of the equipment for that, those things that go on the roof because of lead time issues and all of that. So a lot of those projects we would look to probably be doing over the summer anyway. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of all those. Some of those could possibly looked at being funded out of the construction fund, not necessarily out of the capital fund. So as we go down through the projects, basically I went annex and it kind of goes alphabetical until you get to the middle school and then high school. So the annex, the one half of the building, the older portion of the building, so if you're looking at the building, the left-hand side, that roof was replaced back in '04. It is a built-up roof. We haven't been having any issues with it, but we've now got 20 years, 21 years coming up of life out of it. I don't want to get to the point where we can't restore it. So this would be a price to restore it, be a new flood coat. They go over all the seals, they flash the pipes, all those type of things. And then we end up with a 10-year warranty out of that. At Brownstown, when we renovated Brownstown, we did not have a pre-K program at Brownstown. So now we're utilizing what was years ago originally was a library. It was used for a large group instruction room. It was a flexible space, has a movable wall between it. It's near the cafeteria. It's being utilized as a pre-K room. There's a space within the room that we can convert into a bathroom, so they actually have a bathroom accessible right from the classroom. So that's what the costs for that are. Next one down there at Fritz, again, this is one of those that wasn't actually listed originally as an ESSER project. That is providing air conditioning in the gymnasium, the stage area. So when that part of the building was constructed back in 04, 05 timeframe, no air conditioning was provided in that space. Leola, the Temp Leola, Old Smoketown. We have some HVAC pumps down there that, in speaking with my maintenance guys, they're concerned about their life expectancy much further than, so they're working, everything's fine, but I'm worried about when it's not fine. And then if they fail, we're gonna have an issue down there. So this would get us well past the timeframe on moving forward and making sure that we can utilize that building, you know, to house Fritz there when we renovate Fritz and move forward. So not a major cost, looking at, you know, spreading it out over the years of time. That part of the building, those boilers were done sometime in the 90s. So those pumps have had a lot of run time on them since then. So next is for this building, Smoketown, purchase of an aluminum canopy for the car rider side. The south side of the building is where the car riders are picked up. They have a pretty good long distance to go out to walk, especially on a rainy day, and they're out there hanging out. So this would give them a place to be somewhat protected. So the canopy is about 9 foot by 32 foot in size. So, here at Smoketown, this is where I thought I had a mathematical error and I was wrong. So they've requested a paved play area located to the south of the mulch playground. This would be a place to have some basketball backstops, some foursquare painted, those kind of things. It should be $48,000. So I went down a rabbit hole and got lost in my own thoughts on this one, I think. But no, I confirmed it with the contractor and I've got some estimates on this, so $48,000 for that. From the middle school, I received a request at the outdoor classroom seating area. There's an amphitheater down near the basin. It's tiered. The seating area itself between the tiers is basically grass. We mow it, we keep it trimmed. They've requested it be more of an area that they can sit on and something more of like a rubberized material that we have at the other amphitheater. If you're familiar with the arch courtyard, we have the area where the students can sit, or walk. It's like a rubberized blue surface there. Looking at something similar in that area. So looking to excavate that out, put the product in, it's gonna be around $30,000. The next one was a request also from the middle school for an outdoor playground area, expansion of the paved area that they have. A lot of the kids are playing in the adjacent grass areas between the grass and the bus loop. And right now it kind of looks like it's pretty well trampled down. I'm not sure there's much grass left there. So this would alleviate that grass area and turn it into something that would be either a synthetic turf or a rubberized play surface again. Again, to make it a more usable area when the students are out there. A little bit of a sticker shock on the price, but there would have to be some under drainage put in. There would have to be a little bit of work to accomplish this task. We could look to possibly minimize that. I've talked to a couple other vendors. They're looking at some ideas as well. So I kind of went on the high side on this one just to look at what other solutions there are out there. So, at the high school, this is a continuation of the drive-it or the stucco finish, the courtyard area of the classroom wings. Most people don't see the courtyard area, but that's the part of the building we haven't touched yet to resurface that drive-it or that IFAS. So this would resurface all that and then bring it up to the same color scheme as the rest of the building. If you would look in the courtyard, it's more of a mauve and beige, sort of beige, and little dated with the color selection that's there. So at the high school, we have 2 hot water circulation pumps. They're rather large pumps that circulate the hot water throughout the building for the heating season and also used for humidity control. There's 2 variable frequency drives. Those allow the motors to slowly turn on and then get up to speed and then slowly turn off when they're not needed. So this allows us to regulate. One of them has failed. We've been going along just running on one, which hasn't been an issue, but we'd like to get actually both replaced. These have both survived the fire of 2016 as well. So the fact that those made it through that without any major damage was a good thing, so. Also at the high school, there's a chilled water pump. Currently, we have the replacement of one of the water pumps because if you turn it on, it makes noises that it shouldn't be making, so we've been running on one, obviously not running one now because we're in the heating season, not the cooling season. So this will be replacing that one that's bad. Again, large pump, large motor, 75 horsepower motor, and a 1,920 gallon pump, gallons per minute pump. At the high school, over at the rail gym, which was constructed late 70s, early 80s, those are precast concrete panels that were installed, standing vertically. Within those, there's a lot of metal reinforcing. I've been monitoring some spalling, some concrete's flaking off in areas, and you can see actually the reinforcing behind it. This would go through and repair all that and actually put a coating on the entire vertical concrete surface then, and give us a lot more life out of that as well. So, big one here at the high school, installation of a emergency generator to support the IT area, and specifically would provide emergency backup for the servers, switches, that whole entire hub that the district relies on. We had an issue, I don't know, Adam, how many, a couple weeks back? It was prior to the holidays. We had a major breaker trip that covered their entire area. We were able to get the breaker reset. Don't really have a good handle on why it tripped. I've had an electrical contractor in to look at it. He can't find anything that, maybe we just had a surge come through or a blip, but the breaker did what it was supposed to, so that's a good thing. When the building was last renovated in 06, we obviously didn't have the amount of switches, computers in the district as we do today. So that is the major hub of all things. So this would be a generator that would serve that entire IT area. So, okay, got it. The next ones on the list are related to air conditioning in the rail gymnasium, air conditioning the UATA gym. I'll tie the air conditioning of the rail gym into one thing for us to replace the floor in rail. No manufacturer warranty of the floor unless we have the space conditioned. And they don't consider heat conditioning.
Are we soon to be replacing that floor?
Yeah, we had it on the budget last year and we took it off and when we found that we would not get a warranty out of any manufacturer, so. Also in the metal tech area and the wood tech area, equipment is kind of at end of life there in both areas, so it's replacing those. The last one on page 3 is installation of electrical panels and transformers to provide the necessary power for the welding stations they've created. So a lot of that is a completion of other grants that were received by the metal tech shop. So replacement of the rail gym scoreboard, that I actually don't know how old that is. I have no data on it. But we've luckily have still gotten some parts to repair the signboards on the side, but I'm not sure how long that's gonna be supported by the manufacturer. Next 2 items, we have some sheds around the old style wood sheds on the campus, that the one really at track and field, that one has seen better days. So that of either of the two, that would be the one that would take priority. There's some fencing over at the middle school soccer field.
Well,
The-
there
yes.
there is a small mistake there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Both the scoreboard and the sheds have the same justification.
Oh, they do, don't they? I apologize. I will correct that. Thank you for catching that. So, over at the field adjacent to the basin, there would be the installation of an 8-foot tall chain link fence to provide a barrier there so balls and the students don't go running down into the basin. And then some fencing to close off ramps and things on the visitor side bleachers in the stadium. I've also included monies in there to paint all the structures within the stadium. They have not been painted since 2014. So, and then the purchase to replace one of our wide area John Deere mower with a new Toro mower. When we looked at this, we looked at something that would serve us year round. So this one can have a snow blower put onto it or a broom. We utilize a lot of brooms with these lighter snows. That's what we clean the sidewalks with, and we have a lot of sidewalks on the campus. Especially with the addition of the middle school, the amount of sidewalks we have here is extensive. So. Over at the service center, that roof was a single ply rubber roof that was installed back in 2010. We have more than gotten our life out of that. We are looking at it, so this would be a repairs to seams, edges, those type of things. And we would end up with a 25-year warranty out of that. And then the last one is to replace a outdated 1999 Chevy van with a new plow truck, so.
Can I ask, are there many items on this list that were postponed from last year?
The IFAS, the stucco refinishing and that was taken out, and also the concrete repairs on the rail gym. Those were both on the list last year, we removed them. No. Neither one is what I would call a critical item. We can push them down the road, and the pricing I received last year to this year only went up a few $1,000s on each. So,
Question.
yes.
Didn't we buy a dump truck last year?
Not a dump truck.
It wasn't a dump.
No,
Oh.
we haven't had a dump truck here since, the 95 that.
Did it replace a dump truck?
No, the one last year replaced.
Okay, I thought it was a dump truck with a plow on it last year.
Didn't replace the dump truck. That was 2 years ago.
Oh, or was it 2 years ago? Okay,
We got
I
it
was
last
thinking Oh, okay, but approved it 2 years ago.
We approved it 2 years ago, but we finally got it last year.
Okay,
That was a pickup that replaced a pickup that was no longer inspected.
okay, it wasn't a plow on it.
It was a plow and it replaced one with a plow.
Okay, I thought it was a plow and dump, but it
Yeah,
wasn't.
this just gives us more capabilities and more
Okay.
things to be able to handle in-house.
Okay,
So, yeah. We do have a contractor that we utilize to assist us with snow removal, but
so if we're gonna get more equipment to handle that more on our own, are we gonna cut back that amount?
we would be able to cut them out then. Yeah,
Okay,
we'd be able to handle more of that ourselves.
okay,
And, yeah,
alright, thank you.
yep.
Do you have any sense at what total you're going to be looking at for this year? I mean, we've got priority 1, 2, 3, and 4. Or are you trying to get everything finished this time?
No, I don't see that I'm gonna get everything finished. No. Priority 1,
Yeah.
priority 1, priority 2 would be my 2 ideal ones to go after, and there's even some in there that, I think we could reevaluate and look at, so.
Okay. Questions, concerns?
Other than sticker shock.
Yeah, that's what it is.
This, if I'm correct, will be on the consent agenda for next week. There was something I caught on there about this.
Julie has a question.
Yeah, I was just curious of the middle school outdoor playground area. Where exactly is that?
You know where the paved area is, their playground, the cafeteria, gymnasium on that end, the left side?
Yes, where the
Eastern side.
basketball hoops
Yes, where the
are outside?
basketball hoops are.
Okay,
It would be the grass that kind of surrounds that
Okay.
between where the bus drop-off lane is and that paved playground area.
and what are they
there's-
doing out there? Cause they don't have,
They're out there throwing ball around, football, running
is
around.
that during lunchtime?
Yeah, their lunchtime
Okay.
recess, yeah, I don't think, they kind of scatter beyond that paved area,
Okay,
so, yeah.
It's item H on next week's consent agenda. It says approval of capital project budget review. Yeah. I don't know how binding a budget review
It's
is.
just a review.
I think it's just a review, I don't think that's
No, we don't
locked in,
fund it
Yeah.
now,
Yeah,
yeah.
that would
but
be through the budget
it's like a wish
process.
list.
Yeah.
Well,
then-
I picked it up on the consent agenda, so
We're
that's why
just
I might ask
requesting
about it.
approval next week to go out for bid, depending on what items we can fit in the budget as we go through the next few months.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's why we
You're not
approved
approving
it.
7 million.
I knew I saw
So-
something about approving it next week.
And then as you get windfall gains, as things become available, as things become less expensive and, you can add.
It's just not approving any bills, it's just the permission to go
This is the
ahead with
plan.
it. Yes. Any other
Alright.
questions?
I think I was waiting for a fence to go in between that soccer field and the basin. And I'm not sure 8 feet is gonna be tall enough after watching kids punt those soccer balls. That happens so much during those games. And I
It
was
does.
like- And then I looked at 8 feet and I'm like, yeah, maybe 25. Some of
Yeah.
them do kick pretty hard. But no, that's great. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this point in the meeting, are there any public comments relative to some of our agenda items? If not, we will call out Mr. McGraw, who has 3 items on our agenda.
Good evening, everybody. All right, just a month ago, I was here sharing some updates with the technology department and kind of shared some of these items, and we were able to bring some of these back. The first one before you is our proposed E-rate. This is our Category 2 of the E-rate program. This is a end of the year or end of the budget cycle for E-rate programs. So every 5 years, they have an allotment of money. Of the, it was roughly $926,000 in the E-rate last 5-year window. We have $138,000 left. We're putting together a proposal that is outlined here. We're still awaiting several of the bids from the last vendors that we'll receive this week for a final update. So this is a tentative, but the numbers there are reflective of we don't have any intentions of exceeding the left of funding. We will get a 30% reimbursement rate on this project. So you can see the capital outlay there. So we have it broken down into the 3 components there. Network switches are going to be the most expensive part in the bid that we've already, with PEPA mini bid that we did. E-Plus Technology will be the winner of that bid in the evaluation. We have some digital components that go in. They're little adapters that we use, and that's that EndNet services. They won that one. The wireless one, and the reason it's not already included on here is we actually went out to bid again a second time. We were really, really pleasantly surprised with the pricing on the network switches and did not anticipate having any remaining funds left in the Category 2 allotment. So we're able to actually bid some other wireless access points of a different model. Because we didn't include them in the original bid, we had to rebid those. So we're putting together that plan, and we'll be seeking approval to move forward with that. The budgeted amount line item will be included in our 25-26 budget that we talked about at the last meeting.
Will we be approving specific figures next week, or is that still going to be an estimate?
The next one, the consent agenda for next week will be the final.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And again, not to exceed that 138 $40,000 figure that's on that item. That's what we have left of our category 2. And then we'll wait for the next 5-year window and we'd move any of those other purchases. But this is a use it or lose it year, so we want to make sure we take advantage of 70 cents on the dollar. Questions? All right, if not, I can move to the next one. We have a technology recycle, resale, and disposal. On this document before you, we did get one additional proposal or bid from a company called Free Geek Pen. So on the final one on the consent agenda, next week we will add that to this item. There will still not be the winner. The ones that are on there are the ones we would like to award as the best bids we got. We thought they were very, very fair. The GER Solutions one of the reasons we like it, a lot of the companies will provide a grading where they'll give you an A, a B, a C, and they'll get all the equipment. They'll give you a much higher figure up front and then you final check. With GER, as long as the devices are unlocked and things like that, they don't have any other grading, we will get a check for the $14,000, which is different than some of the other vendors.
I'm not sure I followed. Are we getting something from?
We are going to take some aging equipment and sell that as we've kind of put together as a lot. So we had some old devices, actually old laptops that were when the student program was under laptops. We actually still have some of those and some other equipment that I was going through things and wanting to clear out just to get rid of. And we're able to actually package a lot of this other equipment that has served its useful life for us. It's beyond depreciated under fixed assets. And this is equipment we could get, not only can we clean some things up, we could recoup some dollars back into the district. It flows into the general fund, so it'll be up to the business office to see where those funds go, but
As
something
a
like
side note, do you know if any of our students work through Free Greek Pen?
What's that?
Do you know offhand if any of our students work through Free Geek Pen?
I do not know.
They're a wonderful organization.
Okay.
I don't know if you know how they function.
No.
They teach people, well, men and women, young men and women, how to repair computer equipment. Sometimes they build them. If they build their own, they're allowed to keep the computer. I've donated a lot of my own stuff to Free Geek Pen. They're great people, and if we ever have anything we just plain need to donate, they'll take it.
Yes. Yeah, they have done some pickups earlier this year for equipment that was not
Yeah, but
for sale condition.
I don't know if they take from all school districts or just up there. They're in Ephrata, right?
I believe so,
They
yes.
used to be.
Yeah.
But it's a great opportunity for young people, build their own computers.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you ought to visit them. They're an amazing place. Just thought I'd add that.
Yeah, thank you. So on the consent agenda, those final and that updated document will be there for next week and the approval to move forward with those sales. We had broken down into 2 different lots, more just to keep the accounting easy because those are, we need to track those and we wanted to have 2 separate checks coming in for those amounts. That's the only reason there's 2 separate lots there. And then the last one I have for you is a proposal for what we're calling a soft rollout. We had mentioned this last time regarding our nursing solution that is currently, that is being done through Sapphire. And that Sapphire does not sell that as a separate, it's all kind of combined. And so we're end of our year agreement with them and we need an alternative product. So we've been engaging with a variety of different products with our nurse Nancy Lopez, who's the head nurse, and our team, and she's been investigating several different vendors, and we've landed on Snap. And this particular product, one of the things that we like about, not only does it deliver on the things that they're looking for, but has some of the integrations, the data security things that we're looking for on the IT side. And so what we're proposing here is a $2,450 soft rollout. And what this would allow us to do is actually move forward with a 1-year agreement with them. It would allow us to have licenses for Nancy and for Steph on our IT team and for them to actually work together to do this now, well ahead of our, at the end of June is when Sapphire will end. And it will allow them to really test this out in our environment. We could actually run the data sync. We could do all of these different things for a relatively low cost to really know that this is the product we want. And that's why we're recommending moving forward. They offered us a what quote unquote free pilot, but you don't get to do the integrations and really kick the tires. And I think this is well worth it and something I can take care of inside the technology budget without adding or requesting any additional funds. It's more just for the go ahead to move forward with this particular purchase. In addition, they do not, the future years, they lined out what that would look like so you guys could see that, but we are not locked in under any renewal. So this isn't a 3-year agreement. This is kind of a roadmap, and it outlines that on the agreement as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
Questions, concerns?
And so again, that'll be on the consent agenda for
Yes.
next week for approval.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
nothing
you.
else? Thank you very much.
Next on our agenda is policy review. There are like 50 policies in that group.
I was thinking we could start with number 1 and just go through.
Well, actually, I got 2 of them this weekend. There are some missing and so forth, but you've been given plenty of time. We'll have a full discussion of them next month, and we have a full month before we do a final approval. Some of them are pretty standard, some I suspect you might have some questions for, unless there's something you want to ask right now. I did sit in on.
As we go through these, there's so many of them, if you do have questions, just reach out to Dr. Hartman or Mrs. Groff.
Yeah.
Don't wait till the meeting, et cetera.
Don't ask me, I won't
Right,
understand.
because that's not gonna,
I'll just, the only thing I'll add, because these are the 100 policies as part of our PSBA review. Your 100s are programs, your 200s, which are coming up next, not to surprise everybody, those are student pupil related. So these tend to be the policies that end up getting into student handbooks and stuff like that. So not that we don't scrutinize all of our policies, but the policy committee did really take a hard look at the 100s and 200s. Julie can attest to that. It was, we were in, and there was a lot of it was just changes in laws that we didn't have much choice of, but we did really scrutinize them, and a lot of it we really went back and compared to what we currently had. And in some cases, we liked our old language better, and if it didn't conflict with any change in law or anything, sometimes we kept the old language, sometimes we went with the new. But we really took a hard look at them. So yeah, take Mike's advice, reach out with any questions, because it is a lot. It's a lot of content.
I sat on that committee meetings to see what was coming up, and the one thing I was pleased that you were able to have the current version, so you knew what was being deleted, which was one of our problems earlier on. But there's a number of them where they had choices to make, so, you know, some are pretty cut and dry, but you'll notice when you get to them, your own interests, I think, will guide you to which ones you want to be really careful. Review of Lancaster County Career and Technology Center budget. Dr. Hartman and Mr. Hurst, do you have anything to highlight on that?
Just if you reference the 1-page summary that's been provided, it's about a 4% increase this year, which has been pretty standard with the CTC. For us, that means about $1.2 million increase, but once you take away the state subsidy for vocational ed, it's just a little over $1 million. That would be across the CV for the year.
Not increase, it's just, that's the total
Increase,
cost,
not
right?
increase,
I think
total cost.
it's actually less than last year, because we
It
have
is
less
less.
students than last year.
Our ADM, I think, is up a little bit.
Down a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, the ADM went,
I think it's up 5% over the last 4 years, but I think from last year to this year,
Yes.
we're down a little bit.
yes, correct. It averaged, like the bottom line there on it averaged 5.14% increase per year since 2020. This year it's down to 4.01.
Is there some reason why there's less?
I'm sorry?
I noticed that drop. I wondered if there was any reason for it. I mean, are we not able to get kids in the programs?
Oh, for the number of the student number, I don't
I don't
know that.
And ADM is what?
average daily
I was
membership.
membership.
point out real quick, Jeremy Weicker, the new CFO over there, is phenomenal. I love him. Great job. We asked him if we can put like a one-page kind of summary together, and he did an excellent job at it. Under the elements of the increase, if you look like the first three, the wages, the other wages, the piece of retirement, all that stuff, that's like 500,000 right there of the budget of that increase. So essentially 2% goes right to that, just that increase. So that's why the increase is the 4.01, half of it is already, spoken for, right off the top. But anyway, there is more information in that packet. If you have questions at all, let me know. He also offered to come out to any school district that has any questions on it, if anybody wants more information on it or anything, but I think he did a phenomenal job with this one-page summary.
Well, while we're talking about them, do you think we're due for another tour of one of their locations?
I'm sure they would do a tour whenever.
It's been what?
If people wanna go, I'm sure they
4
would.
years, 2 years since we've done that.
Well, yeah, we had something at
We
the
had a
Lancaster
retreat,
CPC.
we had a retreat there, your
retreat
first
there.
year.
That's the only one
Yeah.
I've
That
went
would have
through,
been
and that was
3
within
years
last-
ago.
Yeah, 2-3 years ago.
So maybe that's something
Yeah.
we should look at again, decide which.
Yeah, if we're
location.
interested in doing that, I'll say something to them, I'm sure they'll.
Yeah, we need to decide which
Be on board with
location
that.
it is we'd like to tour. It's been a while. I think it's good for us to keep up on
Yeah.
what's happening there.
Oh, yeah, I'll say that they're obviously in the midst of some pretty big transitions there right now.
Yeah, we
so
might
it
wait a little bit,
might
like
wanna
not,
wait. They're currently
Right now?
looking for their new executive director,
Yeah.
maybe once they're in
Busy.
place.
right,
Well, maybe we,
Then we'll-
when you get a new one, wait for us to meet.
do that. Yeah, that's actually, that's a great
That
idea.
works for me. Any other concerns? That will also be on the consent agenda. And secondary music department Florida trip proposal. This is a huge, Mr. McGarrett, this is a huge undertaking.
Oh, yeah, good evening. Yeah, I know, and I enjoy doing it. Yeah, good evening, everybody. Yes, I'm here this time in a very different space, which I appreciate. Asking not to go to Jersey this time, to go to Florida with a whole bunch of our high school instrumentalists and choral folks, along with a couple of members from the middle school that are part of the marching band for the next fall season. The opportunity to travel is one of the great things I think is awesome about being in the music program. The school district has gone to many places, gone to Nashville, I think it's gone to Chicago. Here, myself, I've done probably 5 or 6 of these trips before. I have not had the chance to do it with Conestoga Valley School District yet. I've done the Disney trip already one time before. The second time I was prepared to do it, we were taking over 400 people. We were going to 2 different airports with 6 different flights, and then March 2020 happened, and $250,000 went back to refunded to everybody else. So I didn't get a chance to do the second time, but we're excited to try to pursue this opportunity third time here with Conestoga Valley. Like I said, the opportunity to go to Florida and go to Disney. They did have a wonderful educational environment as well for us to participate in. The main highlight kind of for the marching band is to march down Magic Kingdom. For the other groups, it's the opportunity to work with some high-class musicians and professional clinicians down there to enjoy an experience of actually recording music to some of the movies there and actually get a recording of what they got to do. So it's pretty fascinating and neat to do that. We're planning on going over kind of actually 66 days from now over Martin Luther King Jr. Day weekend, trying to miss the minimal amount of time at school as well. And a good time of year to go as it's not as busy down there to give the kids the most opportunity to enjoy their experience as well in the parks. The intent is to go down there to stay off location. I don't necessarily enjoy staying. I love Disney property, but it also is a little bit easier to contain off Disney property for what we're going to do. The company we're going with has been doing this for 15, 20 years. I've been working with them for at least 13, and Conestoga Valley, I think, has been working with them as well for that duration of time. So I feel very, very confident with Alyssa Grill out of Mechanicsburg to help us through those transitions. The cost per student is going to be under $1,400. I think it's actually going to be more around $1,100. That was just really just depending on a couple of factors that we're still figuring out. And based on the kids, if they want to stay 4 to a room versus 1 to a room, they have those options as well, depending on what they choose to do. So that will affect price per student as well. There's some cost estimates. I did ask for possibility for requests from the school. It's really just there for my own doing and just kind of understand what I need financially to do and to fundraise here for the next year to make sure that we have everything that we necessary for myself. Fundraising efforts will increase those things coming through this year. We've been kind of ramping up to do this anyway, at least whether a bigger trip, whether it be Florida or something around, so we've been doing those things, but consistent opportunities for our students to fundraise for themselves along with the group to offset as much cost as we possibly can to make it affordable for all of our students here at CV that are part of the music program to be able to go. There's plenty of trip highlights on here. Obviously, there's a lot of different things. I'm not gonna go through every single thing that's here, but really looking forward to the opportunity to go and would love questions that I can answer for everyone.
I appreciated the detail of your application.
Thank you.
That's important to know what the chaperone regulation is and so forth. And I have no problem with approving this really. We have sent performing arts groups down there and elsewhere a number of times. I think it's always worthwhile for them. My only concern was, and it has nothing to do with approving it, as I read through it, as if I were a parent, I got lost in the pricing.
Okay.
Okay, as opposed to saying, this is what it costs, all in one place.
Sure.
And this is what all the extra options are.
Absolutely.
Because as a parent, I would want to know just how much money this is going to cost me.
Correct. So actually Disney prices won't come out until for next year for the 2026 rate until May.
Yeah.
And then the block hotel rooms actually can't be booked until the Super Bowl or until after that. So
I would
can't give them the
appreciate
specific.
if during the next year, you kept us updated on how your fundraising is going and what
Absolutely.
you're doing. And I am assuming that no child will be kept out if they have a problem with the pricing.
No, we're gonna try to do our best to make sure that happens. I also have a couple businesses that are interested in actually kind of
That's
helping
great.
us out with those things as well. So
That's
a lot
great.
of opportunities with that to help every
No, I
single
think
child.
it's a great opportunity for the kids.
So,
Any
Did you mention how
questions
many
about the
students you
trip?
think you might be taking?
Anybody want to go along?
this guy right here.
Easy.
That was an easy one. I knew my audience right there. Probably,
looking to
I'm
meet
hoping
Mickey
around
Mouse?
a little over 100 would be what I think. I think we, right now at the high school level, we probably have 120 within our entire ensemble. I know with our senior class is a little lower just because of, I think, COVID affected our senior class, and I think we'll have a bigger number, so I'm thinking around 120 would be great. So I'd love to have 3, we will be driving down for those that's there. So 3 charter buses actually would be great logistically, that would also help us actually kind of take, I think, maybe a truck away, and I can actually use, as long as we did it right, I can make everything fit within the 3 buses that are there. So yeah, done it a couple times, so excited to hopefully we can get everybody there. So
I wish you good weather.
I wish it's good weather too, especially getting out of here and getting down there, that's more what I'm worried about, so. Thank you.
That would be a really cool trip.
So-
Yeah, for sure. I did some choir trips when I was in high school and they were some of the most memorable times in my high school experience with Toronto and stuff. Just really, really cool, especially with your peers that are involved with you with music and stuff. So
Absolutely,
I'm a big fan of these.
great.
Really, really cool, especially with all the stuff that you mentioned that they get to do.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool, and the opportunity to go to NASA too, I think will be a nice little highlight. I haven't had a chance to do that either, but a couple of the adults are not necessarily park fans, so I was trying to also appease, but also try to do something a little different as well, that I haven't gotten to do yet down there, so excited.
Cool. Very cool.
Alright, well, thank you, everybody, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So this will be on consent agenda for next
Yes,
month, good.
yes. That gives us a consent agenda. Mrs. Schaefer.
So Mrs. Schaefer actually went home sick today,
Oh,
but I can speak to this. I'm familiar with this program.
okay.
So this is something being requested by our K-12 school counselors. SCUDA is a tool. I can't tell you what the acronym stands for. I can tell you the first 2 letters are school counselor. But it's a time on task analysis for school guidance counselors. It's actually a tool that links into their Outlook calendars and helps them kind of track where, almost like a clinician, like a medical doctor have tools like this. It helps them kind of really track what they're spending their professional time doing, as far as how much of their day is spent providing direct services to students versus doing administrative work versus doing other things. And it's actually a tool that's recommended by, it's not recommended, but it promoted by the Department of Ed for counselors to use as part of their 339 planning. Part of the 339 plan which is the state-approved plan our counselors have to do is they do have to submit an estimated time on task. So it's part of kind of our overarching comprehensive plan for school counselors where we're trying to help them take a more analytical look at what they're spending their time doing and then set their goals for their department around where they can improve. So it's a tool they identified. It's promoted by ASCA, which is the American Association of School Counselors. Sarah, Ms. Schaefer, had money in her budget this year out of her pupil services budget, and so we thought it wasn't something we originally budgeted for, but she had remaining funds, and it's something they wanted to get started with. So
It never hurts to do time study, how you're spending your time. Questions?
Looks like it's school counselors' use of time analysis. For Scooter.
it is a pretty. I know some counselors in the past who have used it, and they found it very beneficial.
Any questions?
One quick, I actually have an acronym question this time, but on one thing it says, I know the MTSS, what's the MD and the MTMDSS?
MTMD.
What does the MD stand for in the middle of MTSS?
Dr. Kozer, do you know that one?
Where is it at?
It's if you scroll, it's like the fourth page down.
It's right there at the bottom.
Yeah,
MTMDSS analysis.
Oh.
you have multi-tiered system sports, what's a multi-tiered?
Multi-domain, does that say? I can't see it from back here. Tier one
Multi-tiered, multi-domain system
Yeah.
of supports? Holy crap,
domain. We do MTSS-I, integrated MTSS.
okay.
That's what you're trying.
Sorry, that one, I just haven't seen that before. So, okay, multiple domain, multi-domain.
I'm wondering, huh?
That's a lot of multis.
It's a support system.
Yeah, just a more complicated support system. So, that's the only question I had, sorry.
Any questions? If not, our next thing is a review of the board agenda for next week.
I did, we were looking for approval on that tonight.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh my goodness,
Oh, gotcha.
you're right, I missed that, I'm sorry. That's due to contract needs to be approved tonight. Could I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve the SCUTA contract.
Second.
Could we have a roll call, please? I'm sorry I missed that.
Dr. Martin? Aye. Mrs. Fisher?
Aye.
Mr. Hurst?
Aye.
Mr. Talley?
Aye.
Mr. Gensel?
Aye.
Mr. Eby?
Aye.
Ms. Trowbridge? Aye. Mrs. Groff?
Aye. Okay, thank you for catching that. Now, are there any questions on next week's agenda? If not, is there anyone in the public that would like to address the board on any issue? Do any board members have initiatives or concerns to bring up? I would remind the board that our January visits dates are posted. Classroom visits for January, they have been sent to you. Just wanted to bring your attention to that because they start tomorrow.
Oh, one quick note. And I got all turned around because I spent the entire holiday season being sick. The senior citizen breakfast was after our last meeting, but before this one. That happened in between our last meeting and this meeting, didn't it?
I'd have to
Yes.
look at my calendar.
So I don't think we
think
mentioned that. Anyway, senior citizen breakfast was really nice. And we got to celebrate Dr. Fox's birthday as well with all of those in attendance, which was pretty fun. But anyway, it was just it's always good to see. And I know the kids get really excited to sing for our seniors that attend that, which is always really neat to see. They get really excited, probably because they get out of class, but also because they get to sing for them. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it has shrunk a little bit over the last several years, but it seems to be steady. I'd still like to find a way to advertise the gold cards more.
Yeah.
There's always someone there that says, my neighbor didn't get invited, and I have to explain, well, get them a gold card.
Yeah.
It's more difficult to communicate with that part of our community to let them know that this is available to them.
Yeah.
But it's a great morning. I have to agree.
Just wanted to mention that before I moved on.
Ken Johnson plays a pretty great Santa Claus too.
For some reason, we're never seen in the same place at the same time.
Yeah. That's your Clark Kent.
He has to work on his jokes a little more though.
The Penny Saver for here does a lot of stories.
Yeah,
On
maybe we
CV.
should get in touch with them to put a
Maybe they can
promo
restore
in
it.
for our gold cards. That's a good idea. They're always looking for articles to write, so maybe we should get in touch with them. Anything else? If not, I will take a motion to adjourn to executive session for legal reasons.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.